Hi, good morning, Jupyter, and good morning, Internet. It's Tuesday, January 10th. This is the weekly Jupyter Dev meeting. Today we have a number of things going on. We have the Data Carpentry Reproducible Research Hackathon happening here in BIDS, right behind us here. So I'll be stepping out shortly for that. On the project management side, we are starting to experiment with new venues for taking our weekly notes. We've been using HackPad for quite a while, but we've been experiencing some data loss when the HackPad's trying to sync all the different users. So we're trying out Etherpad this week. We might try it out for the whole month just to see if we can get a run going. This instance is hosted by Wikipedia. So thanks to them for letting us play around in their sandbox. And I'll be posting the link both in the existing HackPad, Jupyter HackPad, and in down in the notes of this video on YouTube. So I need to get there myself. So those are the two main things in the project management area, the Data Carpentry Hackathon and moving over to Etherpad. It looks like for governance, the Code of Conduct PR was merged, and there's a link there in the Etherpad, so you can check that out when you get a chance. And then it looks like the next folks on the list in the Etherpad are Darian and Ian with the Jupyter Lab.
And one quick comment before we switch, as Matthias left some notes. I think Matthias is traveling today, but he's been doing a really good job trying to kind of summarize these things to post on the mailing list. And so let's try to leave, as he said, kind of complete sentences rather than sort of minimal bullets, so that somebody who later reads these notes can actually make some sense of them. Because when he posted that summary to the mailing list, I think it was useful, and I think if we can get into a habit of having a little bit of a written record, it does help kind of the broader community who can go back to these archives later on. And I'll try to do my part with that on the pieces that I'm writing.
Okay, great. Darian, would you like to kick off the Jupyter Lab updates?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that was almost in a state of readiness before the end of the year, we've kind of put together in the last few days. So there was this big abstract editor revamping that Steve was working on that just as of now, the last bit of it went in, where we could get rid of a lot of things that were CodeMirror specific, and in fact we don't really need a cell editor widget. That comes for free based on what an editor, all the editors need to do, and we have now got almost all of session restoration except for the layout of the main area. So what that means is that the sidebar restoration now works as well. It's a little bit easier to use than it was before, and there's a class called Instance Restorer. If you're a plugin author and you don't want to just copy and paste some other plugin, which you could totally do, they're all restoring their state. You can go to that class and it has a big doc string showing you exactly what the life cycle of it is. But for end users, I would ask that you just pay attention to what's happening and see if it's actually restoring in a usable way, see if there's any annoying things going on, because this is one of the things people will definitely notice as we transition to beta. So we want it to be not annoying. Let's see, what else is in?
I have a question regarding that, Darian, that occurred to me yesterday. Is Jason on the call? No.
I saw him jump.
Oh.
He said he might be late.
Okay. So yes, this is. Okay.
He is.
So cool. This is from doing a demo off of the demo repo that Jason had, and I did this demo yesterday, and I was using old versions of Lab that don't have the restore, but I was wondering if the restore will interfere with this pattern, which is a pattern that I know Jason has also used, which is to simultaneously open multiple views of the same Jupyter Lab, effectively the same URL, on different desktops, but where in one you may have loaded a couple of notebooks for this part of the demo, in another you may have loaded instead a couple of markdown files and some consoles, in another one you may have loaded some of the GeoJSON examples. But since at the time there was no concept of kind of session state, you could just reload, kind of go and load each of them, and there would be no collisions whatsoever because there was nothing to collide on. There was no state management at all. And so I'm wondering if what Jason was doing and I was doing with these demos of effectively hitting the same thing in parallel multiple times is going to become kind of a pattern that won't work. And that may be fine, but then kind of what should we do? I guess and we don't have to solve the question right now, but it occurred to me yesterday because I remember Jason demoed it that way, and I'm using it in a similar manner.
I can tell you and I can tell you ways to work around it, but I can't tell you what's correct because this is sort of a subjective thing. What will happen is that as you open documents, they will get added to the common local storage of a browser. So if you have multiple windows in the same browser, then the next time you refresh, every single document you opened and all your sessions combined will reopen. But there are things that are unique. So current widget and the collapsed state of the right sidebar and the collapsed state of the left sidebar, those are actually unique. So they will be the last one that updated. And it's written in a fairly user-friendly way in that if it can't run the command that is meant to restore something, it just deletes that key from the database and says, all right, something's wrong, I'm not going to try to restore. So chances are you shouldn't see any errors, but it might not restore in the way you would have thought when you refreshed the specific tab that you refreshed. Now, if you want to work around it, you do want multiple views, you could always use multiple browsers, or you can go to the help menu and use the clear application state anytime you like. Or if you're feeling extra hacky, you could open up the console and do window.localstorage.clear, especially if you find yourself in a weird broken state that I haven't managed to predict. But going forward, I don't actually know what the best thing to do is. We're building an interface that has multiple views on multiple documents. It might be reasonable for us to say, the canonical way of using this is in a single window, except that we're planning on supporting tearing stuff out into multiple windows and that sort of thing. So it's not clear. I think we have to define these behaviors, probably as a result of some research. I don't know if we'll just by thinking real hard come up with a great thing. We'll probably have to see what people need and want, and also what other apps do.
And keep in mind too, one of the sets of features coming down the Phosphor pipeline for the doc panel is to be able to tear out tabs into their own floating windows. And so you'll have the ability to open up documents and pull them out of the browser and put them on some other monitor somewhere or some other screen or some other desktop and toggle between them that way. So that maybe that's enough to handle that demo use case, and we call that fine. You could also think about being able to launch Jupyter Lab with a particular session name or something like that, and we incorporate that into the state storage. Like if I start Jupyter Lab under like this env, like I don't know, some kind of virtual env for Jupyter Lab storage or something like that, then we could do it that way potentially. So there are multiple ways to go about that. We just have to
I wasn't asking kind of for, I was neither complaining nor asking for an immediate solution, but kind of flagging as I use it in some of these scenarios. I figured it would be good to put that on your radar, but I know it's a complex one, so I wasn't expecting a solution right away.
One of the things on our near future roadmap is a concept of settings and storing settings on the server. Along with that comes a concept of server sessions, and a better communication with the server. And so maybe your URL there's a random URL that's just your server session, and then, or you set a cookie or something that's your server session, and you make a GET request to the same URL, and the session's restored.
Yeah, you can imagine something like the running tab. That's a sessions tab, and you can like actually clone a session that you used to be in before. Like there's lots of interesting possibilities once it's server side that would actually transcend the limitation that right now we only restore state, if you're in the same browser and you haven't cleared your browser settings and all that. So yeah, there's definitely some flexibility once we move to the server, but there's also latency. Right now, it's pretty much guaranteed to save everything. But if it's an API call, you can imagine some things sometimes don't get saved. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a big topic, but at the very least, I think what we've removed now is the annoyance of having to reopen all the things you had open if you want to continue and you've just refreshed the page, which I think is like a bare minimum for releasing to end users who aren't just working on the project itself.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's cool. Great, and thank you for that. I think that's the bar we had to meet.
Cool, great. I think there's some stuff that Ian wants to talk about.
Yeah, I was just gonna ping everybody that we're getting closer to a real-time collaboration being active in Jupyter Lab. So if people want to take a look at that, there's a couple links that are pasted in the pad. I've demoed it a little bit to a few people, but without a really good user experience. So for the past couple days, I've been porting and updating some of the work that Matthias did with Jupyter Drive to try to get a more integrated experience with Google Drive specifically. So part of that has been re-implementing a file browser in Jupyter Lab. So this is, to my knowledge, I think the first alternative file browser in Lab. So there's been a bit of kicking the tires of the file browser model to see how well that works, and I'd say it's going reasonably well, but that's something to keep an eye on.
And Ian, do you think you want us to begin trying to play with it, or you have that point, or right now it's more of a heads up coming?
In a week or two.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So when you're ready for that, maybe add a short little set of instructions of the steps to follow and move. I mean, at least people in the team can begin playing with it, and I would also feel free to announce it on the mailing list that somebody else can be. And adventurous users may be willing to jump in.
All right, it looks like IPyWidgets is next. Jason and Sylvan.
Jason, you want to go ahead?
You're both muted.
You've got the first few bullet points. Why don't you go ahead? Or I can try to summarize for Sylvan. We've released beta 6 of the widgets, lots of polish and cleanup, continuing ongoing polish and cleanup. Sylvan got custom widgets working in the envied viewer. I'm sure he'll post a URL, some of the examples he's been showing after that first bullet point. And backported output widget to Notebook 4. Right now it was only Notebook 5. We may release a Notebook 4.4 if 5 is delayed if IPyWidget 6 comes way before Notebook 5, then we may release Notebook 4.4 with this so that IPyWidgets can still work with Notebook 4. And we talked about documenting the widgets a lot better and how to make it work better with real-time collaboration. Sorry, I think I just read the bullet points. I don't know if that was useful or not. Any questions?
I guess I'm wondering, what are your concerns with the kind of 4x, 5x lab APIs with the widgets? It seems like right now we do have kind of 3 parallel lines with these APIs and extension installation and whatnot that the widgets have an impact on. And I'm just curious, kind of what your take and understanding. Is it getting too complicated? Is it fine? Is it? I'm just asking.
Are you talking about the ways to extend the notebook versus extend Jupyter Lab? I mean, this is just
no, specifically about widgets, specifically about widgets working across kind of notebook versions for users who are not completely up to speed on the details between the low-level differences in extension management and JavaScript integration on the 4x line, on the 5x line, and on Jupyter Lab. Basically, what users think is, I have a notebook and I'm using widgets. Does it work? Right.
So it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy if you're using stable versions. Dev install is complicated because you've got to do development install of IPyWidgets, of Jupyter.js widgets, and everything. So there are multiple moving pieces if you want to have a dev install of everything at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that before we have the proper Jupyter server that with the conv.d approach for extensions, we will still have a 2 commands installation for widgets. So that's the main issue, I think, for both lab and notebook.
And so you're saying the solution to kind of really have a clean way forward on this is to get the Jupyter server configuration management done. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. But right now we're concentrating on IPyWidget 6, and which is the first version that will have all these different contexts working, like the web context, Jupyter Lab, notebook, and Sphinx, and NV Viewer. But to be honest, I don't think it complicates the picture. Actually makes things simpler. So yeah.
I think the thing that we're concerned mainly about right now is making sure that IPyWidgets 5 and IPyWidgets 6 are compatible, because there was pretty major rewrites between the two, et cetera. So IPyWidgets 6 should work across at least Notebook 5 and Jupyter Lab. And if we put this one backported PR in Notebook 4 as well. And we just want to make sure that people's code that's using IPyWidgets works the same across the IPyWidgets 6 upgrade.
Yes. Yeah. Just yesterday we had questions here at the Reproducible Research Hackathon about the use of widgets, and they're building curriculum for teaching, and they were very interested in that. And so I think our answer was, as long as you're using released versions, it's fine, and there's no breakage kind of across release versions for end users, and we want to continue to be able to tell users who are in education and research kind of that's a true story.
There are some breakages. It is a major release. So, for example, the styling is done a little bit differently. We have a new layout widget, etc. But we're trying to minimize those and document them really well. And making sure that sort of really the common use cases for widgets, that they're backwards compatible. More advanced use cases, there are breakages. I mean, it is a major release.
One thing that we were thinking about is make the current beta a public beta and send an announcement that would be specifically for the people who are authoring custom widgets, because there are folks out there who are building really sophisticated things on the top of widgets, and we don't want to break their libraries, and so we want to be able to communicate clearly with them about what they need to do to migrate to the latest version.
Absolutely. I couldn't encourage that more. I mean, I think we should be much more proactive with announcing our betas and whatnot in public, on the mailing list, bringing other people. Not everyone joins these meetings, and so yes, by all means do so.
I mean, the earlier betas were private. We were mostly checking package management issues and things like this. That since we have so many moving pieces, we needed to make some betas that were not really meant to be used by end users.
Yeah, but I think it's not so much that they shouldn't use them. I think the users can choose kind of what they want to use if they know what they're getting into, right? Because we never know who is only listening on the mailing list, but if they see something, they know what they're doing and they're willing to deal with the complexity, and they may be able to give us valid feedback or even fixes or whatnot, or feedback from a use case that we haven't thought of. So announcing that, as long as we caveat it correctly, I've never been worried about putting stuff out there that is still early. The danger is putting stuff and not telling people what its limitations are. But as long as we give people fair warnings, then I think that's fine. And so I would say, yeah, go for it. Make the announcements. Our main mailing list doesn't really see that much traffic, and especially about releases. And every time we put something out, there should be a quick note on the mailing list. Hey, this is out. Anyone is interested and wants to play with it, jump on it. And these are the caveats. Even if the caveats are nasty ones, like it's internally broken for extension management, for example, that's fine, as long as it's a big bold bullet at the top. Caveat emptor.
Yeah, we'll do this.
Anything else on widgets, guys? Or should we move over to Grant?
I don't
just
think...
one small thing. Sorry, we had there's an ongoing work on backing widgets with MyRender, but which is stopped by which is stuck because of the which is blocked because of this PR not being merged in MyRender.
Yeah, we have no control over that right now, so that's unfortunate. Is Grant on the call?
I'm here.
Okay. Grant, do you want to update us on the MyRender extension stuff?
Yeah. So this is something I've been working on for the past couple months. And so the MyRender cookie cutter is in a pretty stable state. So I encourage people to start using it. And I've used it to make the Jupyter Lab JSON extension, which renders JSON as a tree, as an interactive tree. I just recently updated the GeoJSON, which I think Jason started. So now it was rewritten using the cookie cutters, so it supports both lab and notebook. And then I'm working on a JSON schema table. And that it's currently working, and now I'm working on the Pandas side and trying to figure out a way to make it work with Pandas really seamlessly.
And are you thinking, with the Pandas integration, are you thinking of serializing the Pandas data frame into JSON for render? Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, that's the idea. There's Kyle opened up an issue on Pandas on Pandas Dev. And there's a discussion going on, so I'm not sure exactly what the result is going to be. Whether it's going to be like a repre method, or whether it's going to be some new like the way I'm currently doing it is I'm just taking a Pandas data frame and doing a to-dict. That's just how I'm currently doing it, but maybe there will be something added to Pandas that will do something similar, like to JSON. So it's to be determined, but there is a discussion going on. I can link to that in the Etherpad here.
Yeah, that'll be useful. Obviously Wes is now at 2 Sigma, and 2 Sigma has their data bus for JSON serialization of common data structures across languages in their notebook. So I'm gonna guess that whatever they've done for the Beaker notebook data bus. Wes is probably already on top of that in that discussion.
Okay. What's Wes's last name?
Wes McKinney. He's the original author of Pandas, and he's now at 2 Sigma, which is the company that developed the Beaker notebook, which has this concept of this sort of cross-language common data bus where they serialize various data structures, and that common data bus is in JSON. So all languages basically dump their common variables in JSON into this common data bus. And so I would imagine that they've already done a fair amount of work in this direction.
Okay, cool. I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Grant, can you post a link to the MyRender cookie cutter? Andreas Mueller and I are talking as we speak, like right now, this minute, on the Gitter about how to package a rendering extension across the notebook and Jupyter Lab and possibly Interact, etc. Can you post a link to that cookie cutter?
Yeah. Right here, MyRender cookie cutter. There it is. It's in the Jupyter Lab org.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you have any questions, just feel free to contact me. And yeah, and then I've done a couple little experiments with these MyRenderers. Nothing really worth showing yet. But yeah, when there is something worth sharing, I will do so. And I think that's it for the MyRender extensions.
Grant, do you know about the issue open on Jupyter Lab discussing the JSON schema rendering, table schema? Are you aware of that one?
No.
I'll post a link to it on the Etherpad.
Cool. All right.
Carol, on Jupyter Hub.
Hi, everybody. Most of the work that got done this past week for Jupyter Hub has to do with deploying for education and getting Brian ready for another class at Cal Poly. And one of the things that we did was release 0.72, which has some cool support for running a shared single user notebook server as a service, as well as authenticating small groups. So there are examples in the repo of how to do that. And we've also updated a lot of the Ansible scripts for the teaching reference deployment and working on the online tutorial that's later this month. And I did some work over the vacation with Andrew Nesbitt from libraries.io to do just a quick and dirty GitHub markup of organization activity, and shared that with Matthias and Min. And IPyParallel probably will get released this week, and also MBDime had a release on Monday. Just cleaning up some of the early feedback on it, but it's looking good. That's it.
And I actually played with NBDime over the last few days because I was giving a talk yesterday and I wanted to at least have a little highlight of it. And it looks really great. Is there any coupling in terms of the user experience that you're looking at between NBDime and Jupyter Hub, so that if people are collaborating and kind of they can easily view diffs of, especially as you have the notion of shared servers, right in the workflow, then immediately one question becomes, oh, can I see how my documents are evolving? And in that sense, NBDime is kind of the answer for that. Have you guys kind of touched those two lines yet in your heads or not?
Min may have. I don't know that there's been really any formal discussion on it,
Okay.
but it sounds like a cool idea and something that would be useful for folks that are collaborating. So I will mention that again to him.
Yeah, no, we'll get there. I mean, it looks very nice. I really liked it. Definitely makes for a way more comprehensible kind of experience of the diff than what you get if you just type diff at a terminal for these JSON data structures. So it's really nice.
Sure. Yeah, they did a great job. Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. And did you hit any particularly kind of nasty new problems with Hub in the new deployments, or is it more sort of small polish? I'm kind of curious.
It was more just things that with the new API for services that just needed to be worked through, but there wasn't anything major that didn't get fixed.
And do you see Ansible as kind of the recommended path for deployments, for educational deployments? Kind of the set of Ansible recipes is probably the easiest way to recommend to people, or is that the one? Brian
It's
happens to be.
it's a pretty straightforward. Like we cleaned up a lot of the usability of it, so it's pretty straightforward. Like most of the configuration is now done in one file, and I'm working on trying to get a Vagrant instance so that you can just type Vagrant up, and once you've configured it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's simpler than the Docker at this point, I think.
Mhm.
So.
It might be worth if you guys feel that this is getting kind of with a good UI user experience for that educational kind of small to medium scale context, just making a note of that, kind of sending a little flag out to the education mailing list, because there may be people there who are wondering about this and they're not fully aware that these improvements have happened and that this actually presents kind of a nice and easy user experience for. Because in education, there are a lot of contexts where you have people who are saying, I want to deploy for my class, for my group. I'm not a sysadmin. I don't have a sysadmin. But if you give me some kind of easy to follow steps, I can manage that, right? And that kind of sweet spot of small to medium sized classes without professional DevOps support is actually that market in a sense is very large in education. And so making people aware of that on the education mailing list might be useful. I'm sure that people would appreciate it.
Sure, sounds good.
Mike, I think, is next.
Mike, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go for it. Thanks, Carol.
So, lots of some small things and NB convert testing improvements. One thing that people should probably know is if you read the docs, if you have Python greater than or equal to 3.5 in your environment.yaml and you're using a Conda environment, it right now is going to start requiring 3.6. I'm not sure why it does this, but that was what was breaking our read the docs most recently.
Mike, I noticed that. I think it's a problem with Conda, is my impression, or something in the pipeline of repos that come from Continuum, that when you right now, if you install on a mini Conda, like I had to do it this weekend, and my Conda installation broke, and so I wiped it and made a new one. There's a very weird effect right now. If you install on a Conda and then you make a new environment and you say Conda create -n foo Python or IPython or anything, that new env becomes a 3.6 environment. But the 3.6 repo, the 3.6 channel doesn't have the complete set of packages. It's very incomplete. So what you have to do is you have to manually say in the create call, you have to manually say Python equals 3.5 to force Conda to stay. And I think this is like a Continuum and a Conda. I don't know where in that space the problem lies, but it's defaulting to pulling out effectively from an incomplete set of repos.
Yep, that sounds exactly like what was happening. I already have an issue open with them. I already fixed it for an NB convert. I was just warning other people if they had this and they hadn't been watching the read the docs and suddenly they see that they were failing, this is probably going to be the cause.
Can I ask you to post on the Etherpad the link to the issue you created so that we know, because this hit me a couple times and I was helping Karthik yesterday as well with Conda issues. It would be good to know where to point people to.
Okay, I'll do that. And then there's a bit of a discussion going on about whether or not we should be replacing some of the, so basically Matplotlib backends, some of them only work in the notebook or that kind of an environment, inline and notebook in particular. And so if you try to currently convert any notebook with that in it to a script, it will fail. And this is suboptimal. This is even if you use IPython. And so I've been working on getting a fix where you just pop in there, rip out the backend so that you fall back on the default if you have only those two backends. But then Min, Thomas, and Matthias had pointed out that the goal had been to move away from Python and IPython specific like code and implementation details. On the other hand, this is a common enough use case, and also we already have an IPython to Python function which is specific to IPython. So I wasn't sure what our policy was in general, like how we make those kinds of decisions about how specific should things be when they already are decently specific.
Yeah, can you post the link to that issue also on the Etherpad? Is there an ongoing discussion on this one?
Yep, both PRs and issues, sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll need to probably spend a little bit of time kind of sorting out the details of that one. I can see the balancing act being tricky.
Yep. I also had sort of a meta question about the organization of the notes. I have a little project that I'm working on the side. I don't want to put it in there yet, but there's no current way to show, like, to describe and talk about how, like things that are outside of the core packages right now, but they would still be relevant to other people. So where should we do that? Should we just have a miscellaneous thing at the end of the notes?
Yeah, I would encourage you to put, maybe we can have a miscellaneous section, or you just put a little section basically with your name on it if you want to, like, report from Mike on other things, and anyone should feel comfortable. But it would be good if it's captured in the notes as well. I think I really want to support kind of Matthias has put a lot of energy into helping us communicate better for people who are not in a live meeting. And so, yeah, no, by all means, no one should be constrained to speaking only about what already has bullets there. Okay,
sounds good. In that case, I think that's it. Oh, I'm thinking of doing a release. We've got enough things now that it probably makes sense, enough use cases that are more or less fixed or better. But I also am fine waiting if we want to at least figure out what to do with the one issue and PR that I talked about. So.
The back end one. Yeah, I mean, if there's no big burning bug that you feel you need to push a release quickly for, maybe let's try to sort this one out. But I think I can see this one is going to take a little bit of thinking.
There's a medium burning bug with Matthew Brett that I would like to fix, because we killed the ability to sideload exporters into the or sideload templates in memory. So that is one of the big fixes that would be coming with this. But I think that we can probably figure out this thing, because the actual implementation of it, it's just a matter of, is fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of deciding what to do.
Okay.
Looks like Thomas is next on the list, but it's not speaking today, unless you want to speak, Thomas.
Thomas, are you here?
If you're here. He's here. Thanks for joining. So it looks like he's not sure how the existing work with the paper fits with the new procedure for writing mini papers. Do we still want to do an overview paper, or discard it and write mini JOS papers for individual repos? So that's the question that
my personal opinion is that now that we're kind of settling on this, we should still do a larger overview paper. I think the JOS papers and meet a different goal. A JOS paper is meant to be very short. It's basically sort of almost an enhanced. It's kind of a DOI with an abstract almost, right? It's really more of a checklist of the state of the software release, along with a short summary, so that you have kind of a visible identifier. A JOS paper is not the place to discuss the ideas about the project, and I think it is time that we do that. And that's the kind of thing that you do in an overview paper, where you kind of summarize the thinking about what is it that we're doing, what are the key ideas, and that is a separate kind of writing. So I do think which is kind of what the SymPy paper did, that we copied the procedure from, which was really kind of describing SymPy as a project. What are the ideas of SymPy as a library, rather than simply flagging SymPy 0. whatever, which is more what the JOS releases are. So I think they do meet different needs. But we can continue discussing this. I mean, obviously I'm not making a decision. I am stating my opinion here. Do we have anyone else? Anyone who might have something they want to bring up, who hasn't spoken yet? As we said, just because we have this kind of structure by topic doesn't mean that whoever doesn't have a bullet can't speak. Quite the opposite. Going once,
I do have something I wanted to share. In my setting up, I forgot actually something I've been working on for the last couple weeks that I wanted to share with you. It's still in test mode, but I think it's fine for you guys to go in there and start clicking around and checking it out. I've been experimenting with the GitHub projects features. And the best way to see what I've been working on is to just go to our main org, github.com/Jupyter. And hopefully all of you can see the projects. When I tested this with another person who was not part of the project, he couldn't see our projects tab at all. So I think it's...
they're not visible if you're not a member?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, that's part of this process of learning about how this works.
Yeah.
So I've created projects at 2 different levels. The first level is, and these are the levels that are available. No yawning, Jason. This is exciting stuff. I can see you.
This since 4 a.m. Sorry, with the baby.
No worries. All right. So at the org level, you should be looking at the Project Jupyter org with our logo at the top. Interactive computing, our destination, our location is the future. Under projects, you should see 3. And if you click on that, I've created 3 projects. The first is a dummy project, test 1. Can everybody see that? Or if you can't, can you just say no, use your voice and say no? So I'm going to assume that's all yeses. So the ones that are actually active right now that I'm working on is a 2017 Jupyter Team Conference and Event Calendar. So this is taking the data from the Google Calendar that Anna has put together and created a calendar within GitHub. So if you click on it, you should see all the months of the year for 2017, and then the different events that I found on my calendar. There may be more. I haven't systematically gone through Anna's calendar, so that's to do.
I see the calendar and I see events, but each of them says you can't see this card.
Really? Can you take a screenshot for me?
Yeah, sure.
Cool, thanks. So that may be because all these cards live in a new repo that I created, which is project-mgt, so project management. So I will give all the team members access to that repo. And is there an easy way to do that quickly?
Same experience that Diane here. I cannot see those cards.
Okay. I think if you change it from a private repo to a public, it will probably be easier.
Yep, I'm doing that right now.
I just
emailed you a screenshot.
Everyone read access, which is 25 people. I don't know who else in the group.
Okay, cool. So now it is public. So maybe try refreshing your browser and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, that works. Now I can see them.
Yep. Cool. All right. Yeah. So cool. So if you go into, so that was the high level org, the org level projects, and both of the projects that were listed are calendars. One is like a project calendar that includes like milestones we're working on, so more of the dev work, and the other one is like event conferences and events. So I thought it may be useful to have that events calendar in GitHub. So, there are fewer places where we leave the GitHub space to find information about the project. So we can try that out. If you guys like it, we can, think about moving into that. If not, we can keep the Google Calendar. That's fine. So let me ask you all to just go into that project-mgt repo. The README is just, the definition of a project from the Project Management Institute, which is, project is something with a beginning and end. So the things that I'm going to list in this repo will be things that will start and end. So we don't want, Jupyter itself.
It's not ongoing development. It's kind of specific activities.
Yeah. So working on milestone, whatever. We're working on the Jupyter 1.0 release. We're working on, trademarks, set endpoint. So if you go up to the top of the repo, code, issues, pull requests, and projects, the tabs at the top, and you click on projects, I've created 11 kind of sample projects of things that have been on my plate in some way, shape, or form. And I've created a couple different types of workflows. So some of them will have the calendar, where there are actual issues that are fit into a month of the year. So I think the Jupyter Lab, release Jupyter Lab 1.0 on my screen is 3 up from the bottom. And there are a couple issues in there for milestones that we've identified that we want to hit over the next 6 to 8 months. Okay. If you go back, there are other ones that just have very simple work states. So let's see, what's a good one?
The classic kind of Trello style of kind of pending, working, done.
Yep. So like I'm looking at add contributor map to website. That's a very small project that we've been working on for a while. So for these, I just created 3 different work states: to do, in progress, and done. So the way this works is I create an issue in the project management repo as, something high level piece of work that is, meant to kind of keep the project moving, but not super technical. And I create an issue, and then I pull that issue into the board as a card.
Now, a quick question, Jamie. Do you know if, you may have answered already this one, but these can pull issues across repos, but not across orgs, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So everything that's so as I mentioned, I created projects at 2 different levels. The boards and the projects that are in this project management repo are only for the issues created in the project management repo.
Got it.
So I have to create a special project manager task within this project management space. But if you go up a level, if you go to the org level. If it's
an org project, it can pull issues from any repo in the org.
Correct.
If it's a repo project, it can only pull issues from that repo.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's nothing within GitHub that lets you pull issues across orgs.
Not yet.
There's no concept of that.
Not yet. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So that's what I've been working on. If you guys like it, you can create an issue and tell me you like it, and then thumbs up it. If you have things you'd like to see in this, you can also create an issue in that project management repo, and I'll just kind of start picking away at building this out. Especially for some of the larger scale projects that we're doing, things that are our grant, so the real-time collaboration, the Jupyter Lab.
Yeah, as a way of tracking kind of the big milestones, the big arcs of development at the org level, I think that this will be good, because sometimes it's easy to get lost in the many things that are happening.
And I'd like to keep us in GitHub as much as possible, because that's where we live and that's where we see notices and everything. So
yeah, and getting lost, I already get lost enough in the ocean of Google's things as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
We had JupyterCon for the event calendar. This looks great.
Can you say that one more time, Jason?
Can we add JupyterCon to the event calendar?
I wanted to clear that with the team first before I made it public.
I think we're waiting on 1 or 2 things about the CFP from the folks at O'Reilly. So we'll probably wait a few more days to put it up there.
Okay. Sorry, I thought we were totally official about that already, but never mind.
Within the team, we're official.
There is an O'Reilly website that has the event listed.
What's that? Yeah, no. It's not a secret, and I think we can make the issue because I mean it's not a secret that it's happening. What we haven't done is kind of a big PR blitz about it, because we do want to have a nice website up the moment we make the big PR blitz. But yes, it's not a secret that it is happening.
I just wanted to ask about the issue for Jupyter Lab 1.0. Since this is publicly accessible and since people have publicly asked, this issue might be something that they'll take as the official release date or something. So we might want to put a note in there about what the actual thinking on when the 1.0 release is happening is. There was just a question on Friday. I think somebody was asking when are we releasing it, and I don't remember what exactly Jason said, but it wasn't a concrete date. And if that person sees this, they might think it is a concrete date.
Okay, fair enough. And that's one reason I was keeping, especially the project level stuff, private right now, because I know we hadn't shaken out all the dates, but I'm just trying to get a ballpark on, approximate times we're looking to release things.
Yeah, but I just I took that link. Oh, it's because you just made it. Is it because you just changed it? Because I opened it in a separate browser and I could see it. That's why.
It
just
got changed just a minute ago.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I missed. Got it. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else? Well, thanks everyone.
Thanks everybody.
Great
see
to
you on
see
the
you.
internets.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.